So there was feral hives or something they were robbing around, and there was an influx of mites, which happens all the time. But everything that was reproducing, they chucked outside. Why they ignore the ones that are non-reproductive, I don't know. That's what they noticed right off the bat. Is like, that's why they called it SMR at first. They're like, somehow they're suppressing mite reproduction. We don't know. And there's still some mystery to it. Like Nathan was asking about earlier, you know, Russ Litzinger asked, is it a brood function or is it a hygiene function? You know, like I think there's evidence to support it's both. Like the brood may be sensitive and puts off a unhealthy brood odor or a stress pheromone quicker, and then those hygienic bees detect that and throw it outside. So it's complex, and it's a behavioral trait, which is weird, because I would say, you know, for somehow they have viral resistance, and that would bother some people because they're like, I don't know that the bees have a physiological response to virus like that, but it's behavioral. It's not physiological. It's a group behavioral trait, which is mind-blowing. But you know what? If it works, it works. And I'm really looking forward to trying UBO too, that Kara Wagner came up with, where you're spraying unhealthy brood odor or stress pheromones on the brood, and you wait a couple hours and then see if they uncap it. So the ones that are ultra hygienic, I think maybe is what she called it. I don't know if there's a specific term yet. It kind of seems to select for VSH too, but yeah. She comes back and looks at it. Did they uncap it? You know, and to see if something's wrong, and that's an indicator that they are ultra hygienic. And she said that you can immediately see measurable results and how much you have to treat, and your winter survival rate, which I think is exactly right, because I've seen.
If that does test for the same thing, the significance is we would already be done.
Yeah.
With all this.
Right, because
we would have spritzed all these frames.
Went and had lunch and go, yep.
Out and count. And,
exactly.
Or just take pictures of them, and then you can count them in the house.
Yep, exactly.
That's all you got to do.
Absolutely. And remember what I said earlier, if you have a strict treatment regime, you're going to get false positives with this. It's not going to have an effect on that. Yeah. So you won't even have to interrupt your treatment schedule if UBO does everything we think it's going to do.
Because you're actually testing the bees, you're not.
Yeah, you're testing a behavioral response. Exactly. You're not having to quantify that suppressed mite reproduction.
That's a good point. I had not even considered that.
I pondered that one day in my obsession. And I'm sure Jamie heard about it, and she's really excited about it, I'm sure.
I'm sure she did, but she wasn't paying attention for those 3 hours that you were talking about.
No, she was listening
so
about... Right, like Camden, whenever Jamie's assigning chores, it just kind of goes in one ear and out the other. Same concept.
Would their sensitivity to the unhealthy brood odor have to be greater for those sealed inside the cappings versus what they spray on the top?
Potentially. But like if you look at these, Eugene, like whenever they're about to, I mean, they're kind of perforated, they're kind of thin. So yes and no. Like if it's on the outside, obviously they know something's, you know, and I don't know what concentration she's using, you know, I'm sure it's low enough that they have to be pretty sensitive to it, because some of them seem to be oblivious to it that aren't hygienic. But that's a really good question. I hadn't really thought about that, but I'm assuming she's using a low enough concentration that they have to be, you know, genetically sensitive to it to show results. But I just have, I don't have any firsthand exposure with it, but Kara is coming out here in June, and we're going to UBO colonies. And like I think I should have by that time Harbo assays on most all of that, and everything's numbered. I know who's who, and there's a bit of a time gap, so I might have a little bit of queen changeover then, you know, but I still think the data is going to be pretty tight to show the correlation between the two, or how much overlap there is.
So you pulled 65 and haven't found a mite yet.
0 mites so far.
You should have come to my house. I bet we would have found a lot of mites by now.
Well, I mean, that's nothing to feel bad about because, I mean, just in general, unless your bees are selected for it, just average honeybees that are great commercial stock have little to no measurable resistance for mites, which is why, you know, every meeting that we have, that's the primary topic of discussion is talking about Varroa. I mean, the bad thing is like if we all start using VSH and then like Varroa is not a problem, like what are we even going to talk about, man?
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find something.
Sometimes it feels like it's not the beekeeping club, it's the
Varroa Management Association.
Yeah.
But if I'm not talking and just moving along here, it takes me about 12 minutes to get through 100.
We're trying to find mites and can't.
Which is a
Looking at drone brood.
good problem to have. Yeah. How
We
annoying.
picked the right frame to start on.
Yeah. For publicity's sake. But that's the thing is like I said too, don't be freaked out or if you're finding mites, like that's the norm. Where you're finding high VSH stuff is not the norm, but we've used breeding stock for so long that it's just embedded in our population. And the thing is too, is look at this. Uncap, 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 uncap.
Yeah,
some of the
it's
drone would be
uncap, recap
uncap.
behavior.
Exactly, uncap. Those have been recapped.
Let me get
Uncap,
a
uncap,
close-up of
uncap.
that.
So the thing is too, is like whenever I see that, I know that they've at least got a partial gene set. And if you look at the old USDA literature, that's the first thing that they'll say is if you're seeing bald uncapped brood like that, that's the first indicator of VSH. And I don't know exactly who it is, but there was some literature that Kate Anton was citing that was saying that there's no correlation between uncap and VSH. And I say that's the exact opposite of that. And the early USDA literature would affirm. So we've done 100. We have found 0 mites. Now, to get a 4, I need to do 100 more because no mites is, according to the Harbo assay, you need to do 100 more to get a 4. So unless this is a breeder, if I, for the sake of time, if I was just trying to blow through a bunch of them and I find 100 sample and no mites, a lot of times I would write 3+ on it and just move on.
Be done with it.
Yeah, that's just for the sake of time. But if you want to be if you want to know exactly what that score is, if you want a 100% definitive score, you need to clear your board here and go for another hundo. But that's, I mean, if it takes you 20 minutes, that's 40-minute frame.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it takes me about 12 minutes on average, so that's 24 minutes frame, you know, so it depends on how precise your data needs to be. And we threw a few drones in there too, so.
Right there.
That's where all the mites are.
It's right here. Well, it's a bit too young.
It's like an Easter egg hunt.
That one's too young.
Ah. Well, how about these two?
That one might work.
Every time somebody like me asks the dumb
Ah!
answer, that slows it down.
We got one. Check it.
Yep.
Come over here and look. It was in a drone brood. But look down in there. Well, where was it at, Nathan? I can't see it. Oh, here it is. It's this one. Look down in there.
Let me see if I can
You can see.
Is that where you see the reproduction?
Yep, there's 2. See, there's one crawl in there. There was one on this one. See it?
Hang on, let me get in tight with you on this.
That's a one. She's not completely dark yet. See how she's not?
Real steady.
Can you still see it? Did you see the reproductive?
walking right
Yep.
there.
Now look, there's a male down in there too.
Yeah. And then I see the white ones are the reproductive ones.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Those are babies. So that's what we're looking for. This was in a drone brood. So I'll probably go ahead and do another 100 out of worker brood just to see if we can find some more.
What is that one right there? The white ones.
Alright,
down
show me
there.
where that one came from.
Eugene's got it pinpointed here. It's right in here. The male may still be in there. I think there was a female that ran out. Another female.
I think there was a female coming up this
Yeah.
side, but
But that would have been a good shot of reproductives because it had at least one male in there. I think there may be two, Eugene. And there
That's
was
gonna be-
what?
That's gonna be really hard to get on camera.
Yeah, you almost have to have like a stereo zoom scope cam or something to get down in there and
So
see it.
you see two white ones?
I've got a.
I saw at
macro range
least
for another
one male. There may have been two males, and there was at least two younger females, and I think there was an older female that came out with the. Well, that was a younger one. The older one ran out. I think you saw her running out of there.
So
I
in
think
this
it was
very
that one.
unofficial test, we have proven beyond a doubt that mites prefer drones.
They do, absolutely. Yeah,
No doubt.
and there's mites here. You know, some
Yeah.
people say, well, it's real early. You know, I'm like, well, they weren't touched late season, so I guarantee you the load has built in there. They're just keeping it at bay, I believe. So what I need too is like almost like a little plastic tray that fits in there that I can just.
Let's go.
A little vacuum cleaner.
That would actually work.
It would work well.
You got a dust down?
Yeah, you just
I
need
don't.
those
Is
little-
that our chicken donor?
Yeah.
I tried to give these to the chickens and they're kind of appalled by it. They don't, for some reason, don't eat them.
I've given that you pull that brood frame out of the freezer, you know, and most
Yeah.
of the times they're scared to death of it because there'll be a couple of bees like
Yeah.
You're supposed
Exactly.
to love this stuff.
You want to see some chickens have fun? Get a watermelon and cut a hole in it.
Yeah.
Not that big.
Yeah.
Just put it in there with them.
Do they get in there?
Oh, the next day there'll be nothing left.
Really?
They'll eat it from the inside out.
I've
But
thrown
they're
just.
scared of it at first. They're like,
What is it? Can we eat it? Well, where I was at was close to where that was. So do you think I should, in theory?
There's that mite right there.
That's Mama.
Hang on.
Oop! I
Oh.
grabbed her and it shot her up.
Man, I
somewhere.
could have gotten that on.
I tried to grab her and it was like
I could have showed your mite-ridden bees.
well, you know, they're bees. They get mites for certain. Whenever I grabbed it, it was like a turtle that you
Yeah.
know somebody runs
She's
over
like,
the back of it and it shoots it off the road, and that's what happened. There she is. She's looking for. She's like, well, time to start over.
She's looking for somewhere else to hide.
Mm-hmm.
Pernicious.
Is that
evil
males?
creature.
They are. Look at the males down in there. There's multiple. Where we pulled that drone. Well, okay, I got one of them. Can you see him?
Hold it like close to there.
I set it right on the edge.
Okay,
Can you
I
get
see
that? That's a duda now. Does it help if I shine the light on it?
So that's the
Young
the
male.
the son of the founder's mite
Yep.
that she then mates with.
Yep. And there was more than one in there. And see, here's a female too. So, but it was really easy to see. Like, there's multiple. Whenever they're reproductive like that, you'll find multiple males, multiple females. So, I mean, it's unmistakable. If you just find
Open
one,
up some of those, see if we can find some more.
that one's open.
It's getting it out there.
I remember a lot of times like having bees that had no resistance. Man, you would crack a drone brood like that, and you would just see them in multiple cells.
It's encouraging that we're trying to find mites. I mean, we're not doing the test right. We're looking at drone brood.
We're breaking the rules to make
Yeah.
it even harder, actually.
Just because I'm trying to document it,
Yep.
and we're having trouble finding any.
Eugene last year said he was convinced I had amatraz hidden in the closet in there.
That's funny.
Oh, wait a minute. There's one. You see it?
Oh yeah.
Is that
Now let me look down in there. Yeah, it's drones that we're pulling. That one looks like a younger female potentially, so I'll look down in here and see. Yeah, we're just pulling drone brood now.
I wonder if it says it. I think it does say here why it's.
Well, we need to document what this looks like so people will know what
Exactly. Oh, there's a Duda nymph on the pupa too. You can see that one. Look right here.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, I dropped it. It fell underneath here.
Well, she's crawling all over the thing. It's
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
how fast they move.
I know, and they're supposed to be blind, aren't they?
I think so.
That just blows my mind.
They just feel around with their feet.
Yep, not cares a bee. We're in. Wild.
So it says hygienic removal for Varroa infested cells takes place only during a brief segment of the mite's reproductive cycle and only in worker brood that we estimate is being 4 to 6 days post capping.
So we're grabbing after or 4 to or like 7+ days post capping just to make sure we're past
Yes.
if they removed it or not.
Measure VSH in worker brood that is aged 7 to 11 days post capping.
But why?
Immediately after the mites have passed through their 2 or 3 days of vulnerability.
But what about drone brood? I think that's the question we're all asking here. Marbo about that because he may not know. But there's got to be a reason why they specify that, unless they were just saying it to keep it uniform. How's your deer population in your area?
Pretty good.
Do you have any CWD or hemorrhagic or anything like that?
Yeah, we get blue tongue every few years,
Does it
and
black them pretty hard?
can.
My uncle had like a major kill a couple of years ago, and they thought it was blue tongue.
So good, bad, or indifferent? I've had some 4s.
So in order to get a 4, you have to pull at least 200 cells.
Oh, okay.
So we typically
So
only.
we're only doing that on the breeders.
Yes. And we didn't even. One of the last frames that Cory has in the truck, so it's one of the breeder frames. So we ended up with 4 2s, which are culls. But the deal with that is a couple of them we only stopped at 100 pupae. So it has a chance, even if you do find one reproductive mite, if you go ahead and pull another 100,
You
and
might.
there's no more reproductive mites, you can still score 3. But we
Yep.
stopped at 100. So, and then everything else was a 3. So it was pretty much a 0 out of 100 of what we pulled. So pretty high. We had a couple 2s, but like I said, those could have been elevated to a 3 if we would have pulled more, but we just didn't. So, but for the most part, everything scored really well. So,
That's interesting.
yeah.
How many have we checked so far? How many frames?
28, but one of them didn't have enough of the right age level or pupae.
Okay.
Yeah. So 27. And then Cory's driving around with another 3 frames in his truck.
So I interviewed your wife.
Did you?
You'll just have to wait for the results of that.
I'll have to catch it on YouTube.
Yeah. You've probably
Oh,
got a
no.
pretty good guess what she said.
Oh no. I can only imagine, Nathan. I could think of a few things that come to mind.
How many times did you get stung collecting these?
One time.
Just once.
Natalie, 0.
She's got that aura.
I'm telling you.
She's just
Not
at
only that,
peace.
I told Eugene, I was like, I went as fast as I could because if she outdid me there, she already showed me up queen rearing this week.
Uh-oh.
She got a perfect take.
That's pretty cool.
One of the workers.
So, gathering attendance, you wait until they've got their heads in a cell eating
No,
nectar or something?
I get the brood frames that like have a lot of eggs and young larvae on it, and I pick the ones with the largest abdomens. What I think my theory is behind that is they gorge themselves to be able to produce royal jelly to feed everybody, and so those are the ones that just seem to do the best. But a lot of people will look for the little fuzzy nurse bees.
Yeah.
But like as soon as they emerge, they're nutritionally deficit. Like they've been through all the stages of metamorphosis and haven't eaten the whole time. And you can see their abdomens are really thin, so they're hungry. They're actually the worst ones that you could get.
Huh. That's interesting.
But that's if you ask anyone that hasn't done it a whole lot, even they'll say get the fuzzies.
So you're looking for the ones with the big abdomens.
Big abdomens, yeah, that can feed. And occasionally you'll have a queen sting one and kill it for some reason. But I mean, time after time after time, it works. Let's see here. You did 25. I'll put you a few extras on it to make sure just in case something happens.
I appreciate that. Baker's dozen.
Yeah. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll put 3 extra. I know it won't cause you too much extra work.
I thought about bringing my incubator and running it with a battery pack on the way home. It probably would have been a good thing to do.
Especially if you got cells, but with these things being emerged already, man, I mean, they go next day air with they're overnight.
No troubles.
Yeah, no trouble.
That's what
at
I was
all.
thinking.
And I guarantee live delivery, so like if I was losing a lot, I would know it because I'd be sending replacements or checks, to reimburse somebody. So, but we just don't have it. But even inside Missouri, like just 2-day transit, because I was trying to keep the cost down, I couldn't even explain to you how many that I ended up eating. And so even in Missouri, I'll ship next day air, and for some reason, like the survival rate is just ridiculously higher. It doesn't make sense, but it has to do with the way they handle them, I guess. But
they're not sitting around and hot or something.
I think they're like last on, first off sometimes, or either first on, first off, like first class seating. They really keep up with those shipments and tracking a little bit heavier. But that's the only way I ship now, next day air. Because that's the thing is, if I have to replace bees, like I hate that I have to replace it. But if you've got somebody that made nukes up a week in advance or whatever, and now they gotta wait till my next batch,
that's
not good. So if you can just avoid that altogether and just cost a little bit more, that's just the route I go.
Yeah.
And a lot of your queen breeders, shipping breeders and high dollar stock too, next day air.
Yeah.
Occasionally you'll find one use U.S. Postal, but man, their tracking's just not as good either. It's like logistically they're just not quite as tight as UPS. Occasionally they'll drop the ball, but overall they do great work. And that's what people want, live queens.
Yeah.
Dead ones aren't worth much.
Dead queens aren't worth much. Well, it's been a long day. I had a great time with Cory. I always do. He and I are a lot alike. We have a lot of weird overlap in our lives. We're just a year apart in age and have a lot of the same interests. We both have ADD with hyper focus, and both got into bees and both jumped into the deep end of bees, and it's just we're a lot alike in a lot of different ways. Kind of strange. He's like the brother I never knew I had. Get along real well with him. He's a good guy. Jamie, his wife, super nice. Having the Summers crew there was neat. I didn't know that they were going to be there today. That was really good to see Natalie. sort of watched her grow up the last several years on YouTube, and she's turning into this very kind, well-spoken, beautiful young lady, and she's just done such a good job with her YouTube channel. It's neat to see. I enjoy seeing her every time I get a chance to. So I'd say I learned a lot today. I got some questions answered about how to do the Harbo assay, how VSH works, what it looks like, what it feels like, how to do it. And I think I'm leaving with more questions than I came with. I'm big on efficiency of testing, and that Harbo assay, pulling 100, minimum of 100 pupa out and looking for mites, visually looking for mites. Well, it's tedious. It takes a lot of time, 12 to 15 minutes per. And if you want to get a perfect score, you have to go to 200 cells. So I was thinking, well, it's spring of the year. There's not that many mites in the spring. If you want to find mites, you should do this in August, especially if you're looking at worker brood. But it's the spring, there's a lot of drone brood in the hive. So why don't we just pull some drone cells and see if there's any correlation between how many mites we're seeing in worker brood and in drone brood. And I think that could have some merit. I have heard somewhere, I can't remember where, that one coping mechanism that Apis cerana has with Varroa is they will basically sacrifice their drone brood to Varroa. So they will allow Varroa to reproduce in their drones, but not in their worker brood. So I was wondering if VSH worked similarly, where you would have hives with quite a few mites in the drone brood, but not in the workers. So I looked at one frame, I pulled like 31 drones out, and 3 of those cells had mites in there, reproductive mites. One cell had 7 adults, one cell had like 4 or 5 adults, another cell had 4, and then I pulled out 100 workers, not a single mite in any of them. So I thought, all right, this theory has got legs. This has got legs. If you want to find mites, then we will just look at the drone brood. So the next frame I did, I pulled out 21 or 25 drones and didn't find any mites. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a really clean hive. They're not going to have like any mites in there. If there's no mites in these drones, there won't be mites in the workers. The first worker cell I opened up had an adult mite in it. She hadn't reproduced, so that's not as bad of a black mark in the scoring system. Really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting. But like I said, I've got more questions now than I did before. Maybe it's supposed to be that way. The more you know, the more you want to know. It's been a good day. It's been a really good day. I had a blast. Really had a fun time. And long drive, but well worth it. Time well spent. Guys, if you've got any questions, leave them below. If you've got anything I can't answer, I'll ask Cory and try to get an answer for it. Appreciate you watching. I'll see you on the next one.